Huawei just unveiled a game changer in the fiery furnace of the US-China trade war. The KIRIN X90 chip, powering its first HarmonyOS computer, announced on May 27, 2025. This isn't just a piece of tech. It's a blazing signal of China's drive for independence, breaking free from the US's iron grip on hardware and software that's held Huawei back for years. But this bold move lands at a perilous moment, just weeks after a fragile 90-day trade truce between the world's two biggest economies, and as tensions boil over chips and tech control. Could this chip be the fiery spark that tips the trade war into an all-out inferno, fracturing the global tech landscape and sending shockwaves through your digital life? This is the fault line that could decide whether your devices stay affordable and connected or become scorched casualties in a battle for tech supremacy that's hotter than ever. On May 27, 2025, Huawei took the wraps off its first HarmonyOS-powered computer, a sleek MateBook Pro running on the KIRIN X90 chip, designed by its high-silicon division. This chip isn't just another piece of silicon. It's a 5-nanometer powerhouse crafted by China's SMIC, marking a seismic leap in China's semiconductor ambitions. For years, Huawei has been battered by US sanctions, starting in 2019, when it was cut off from advanced chips and software like Windows, forcing it to limp along with older tech or scrounge for foreign suppliers. The KIRIN X90 changes the game. It's a custom ARM-based chip with a 10-core, 20-thread CPU, paired with a Malibu 920 GPU for high-end graphics, and it meets China's strict SM3 and SM4 security standards, making it a prime choice for government and enterprise use. China's state-run CCTV hailed it as a self-sustaining ecosystem, a first for domestic tech, capable of rivaling Western giants like Intel and Apple. But this breakthrough lands just weeks after a May 12th trade truce, where the US slashed tariffs on Chinese goods from a punishing 145% to 30%, and China dropped levies on US goods from 125% to 10% for 90 days. Huawei's chip push threatens to unravel that delicate peace, risking a new wave of trade war chaos that could burn through global markets. Huawei's KIRIN X90 is a cornerstone of its relentless strategy to break free from US tech dominance, a mission that's been simmering since sanctions hit hard in 2019. Back then, Huawei was the world's second-largest smartphone maker, on the cusp of overtaking Samsung with a 19% global market share. But US restrictions banned it from accessing American chips, software, and even Google's Android ecosystem, forcing its devices onto older 4G tech or limited app stores. Since that blow, Huawei has poured $150 billion into R&D, building its own HarmonyOS platform, now running on 1 billion devices, from phones to smartwatches, and chips like the KIRIN 9000 series, which brought 5G back to its Mate 60 phones in 2023 despite the sanctions. The KIRIN X90 takes this fight to the next level, moving Huawei into the PC market with a chip that's reportedly a desktop-tuned version of the KIRIN 9010, used in the Pura 70 series. Leaks suggest it's built on SMIC's N+3 node, a 5-nanometer process that's less dense than TSMC's 5-nanometer, but still a massive step for China, especially since SMIC used older DUV lithography gear to make it, defying US expectations that sanctions would keep China stuck at 7 nanometers. This chip isn't just about performance. It's a fiery declaration that China won't be held back, no matter how tight the US tries to squeeze. Here's how this chip works for everyone, whether you're a tech expert or just someone who uses a laptop to browse, work, or play. Think of the KIRIN X90 as the brain inside Huawei's new computer. It's what makes everything run, from opening your email to playing games or editing videos for a school project. It's got 10 cores, which means it can handle lots of tasks at once, like having 10 workers instead of one, so you can watch a video, write a document, and chat with friends without your laptop slowing down. It can manage 20 threads with hyperthreading, making it even faster, like those workers being able to juggle 2 jobs each. The 5-nanometer design means it's tiny but super powerful, using less energy, so your laptop battery might last 12 hours instead of 8. It's paired with HarmonyOS, Huawei's own system, so it doesn't need Windows or Intel chips. It's all made in China, from the software to the hardware. For you, this could mean a laptop that's fast, secure, and doesn't crash when you're on a deadline, all without relying on American tech. But there's a catch. If the US and China clash over this chip, it might never make it to your hands, or the trade war could make all your tech way more expensive. This chip lands Huawei in the crosshairs of the US-China trade war, just as both sides were trying to douse the flames with a temporary truce. The trade war kicked off in 2018 when the US started slapping tariffs on Chinese goods to stop what it called unfair practices, like stealing tech secrets and forcing US companies to hand over their designs to do business in China. By April 2025, US tariffs on Chinese goods had soared to 145%, and China retaliated with 125% tariffs on US goods, nearly grinding trade to a halt and spiking global prices. Electronics costs for US consumers jumped 15%, meaning that new phone or TV you wanted cost hundreds more. The May 12th truce was a rare moment of relief, cutting tariffs to 30% and 10% for 90 days, meant to ease the economic pain and restart talks after inflation hit both countries hard. But Huawei's KIRIN X90 threatens to reignite the fire. The US has long used chip controls as a weapon. Since 2023, export bans have blocked Huawei from getting advanced chips for AI and military use, citing fears they'd end up in weapons or surveillance systems. Now, SMIC, making a 5-nanometer chip with older gear, has US lawmakers on edge. They thought sanctions would keep China stuck at 7 nanometers, but this chip proves China's catching up fast, and that's a direct challenge to America's tech dominance. For you, this could mean better, cheaper tech, or a whole lot of trouble, depending on how this plays out in the coming weeks. If Huawei's chip takes off, it could flood the market with affordable devices. Imagine a high-end laptop for $800 instead of $1,500, or a phone that's just as good as the latest iPhone but costs half as much, thanks to China making its own chips without relying on the US. Huawei's already planning to use the KIRIN X90 in its upcoming Pura 80 series, set to launch later this year, which could redefine smartphone photography with advanced cameras that rival professional DSLRs. For example, the Pura 80 might let you take crystal clear night shots without a flash, all for $600 instead of $1,200. But if the trade war reignites, it's a different story. On May 27th, China accused the US of violating the Geneva trade talks by tweaking chip export controls, demanding a rollback, and the US isn't backing down. A new trade war could mean chip shortages. Back in 2021, shortages hiked laptop prices by 30%, and this could be worse, with phones jumping 40% in cost. US tariffs might climb back to 145%, making Chinese tech like Huawei's laptops unaffordable, while China's tariffs could hit US goods, raising prices on everything from your groceries to your next gaming console. You might also face a split tech world. Huawei's Harmony OS devices might not work with American apps like Gmail or Netflix, leaving you stuck with whatever tech your country supports, creating a digital divide that limits what you can do online. The US isn't going to let Huawei's chips slide without a fight, and the response could be explosive in this already tense trade war. US lawmakers are rattled. Posts on X show growing concern that Huawei's 5-nanometer chip undermines years of sanctions meant to keep China's tech in check, with some calling for immediate action. The US could slap new sanctions on SMIC, blocking it from buying critical chip-making tools like EUV machines, or pressure allies like the Netherlands, home to ASML, the world's leading chip equipment maker, to tighten export controls on lithography gear, cutting China off from the tech it needs to keep advancing. There's even talk of ending the trade truce early. Trump's administration has hinted at hiking tariffs again if China doesn't play by US rules, potentially going back to the 145% levels from April, which would hit Chinese exports hard and drive up prices for everyone. But China's got its own weapons. It controls 80% of the world's rare earth minerals, essential for chips, phones, and military tech, and could restrict exports, as it did in 2024, causing a 25% price spike that made everything from batteries to fighter jets more expensive. This tit for tat could spiral into a full-blown tech war disrupting the $500 billion global chip market and hitting every device you use, from your phone to your car, with delays and price hikes that could last for years. History shows tech wars over chips can ignite massive fallout, and the lessons are a stark warning for what might come next. In the 1980s, the US targeted Japan's chip industry, accusing it of dumping cheap semiconductors to kill American firms like Intel, which was struggling to keep up. The US imposed 100% tariffs, forcing Japan to sign the 1986 Semiconductor Agreement, which limited exports and opened its market to US firms. But it backfired. US consumers ended up paying 30% more for electronics, from TVs to early computers, and Japan pivoted to dominate memory chips, holding 90% of the market by 1990, while American firms like Intel had to reinvent themselves to survive. In the 2000s, the US hit China's solar panel industry with tariffs to protect its own manufacturers, hoping to slow China's growth. Instead, China invested $50 billion, becoming the world's top solar panel maker with 70% market share by 2020, while US firms faded into obscurity, unable to compete. Each time, tech trade wars led to higher prices, shifted dominance, and fractured markets, leaving consumers caught in the crossfire. Huawei's KIRIN X90 could follow the same path, either propelling China to tech leadership or sparking a global crisis that burns through your budget, making your next device a luxury you can't afford. Huawei's fighting for survival in this tech war, and the KIRIN X90 is its blazing sword, cutting through the barriers the US has tried to build. This chip builds on Huawei's recent victories, like the KIRIN 9000S in 2023, which brought 5G back to its phones despite sanctions, sparking a wave of national pride in China, with millions of Weibo users calling it a win against Western oppression. Now, Huawei's charging into the PC market, with the MateBook Pro aiming to rival Apple's MacBook Air, using Harmony OS to create a seamless ecosystem across its 1 billion devices, from phones to laptops to smartwatches. The KIRIN X90's 5nm design, even if less dense than TSMC's, shows China's closing the gap. SMIC's use of older DUV gear to hit 5nm defies Western assumptions about what's possible under sanctions, proving China's ingenuity in the face of adversity. Huawei's also building a $10 billion mega facility in Shanghai to produce more KIRIN chips, aiming to meet demand for its devices and challenge US giants like NVIDIA in AI, where NVIDIA's chips power 80% of global systems. Huawei's not just playing defense, it's launching an all-out offensive, and the KIRIN X90 is its latest weapon in a war that's reshaping the tech world. Huawei's chip push could fracture the tech future in ways we're only starting to grasp, with ripple effects that could touch every corner of your digital life. If it succeeds, China could become a tech superpower, producing 70% of its own chips by 2030. It might lower costs for devices worldwide, making tech like AI-powered laptops or 5G phones more affordable for you, no matter where you live. Huawei's Pura 80 series, expected later this year, could use this chip to offer cutting-edge photography at budget prices, giving you pro-level features like 100x zoom or night shots that look like they were taken in daylight for less than $600, a steal compared to the $1,200 iPhone 16 Pro. But if the trade war escalates, the $500 billion chip market could implode. Shortages might delay new tech, from gaming consoles to smart cars, and prices could soar, with phones jumping 40% in cost, as they did during the 2021 chip crisis. The internet might split further. Huawei's Harmony OS ecosystem, already on 1 billion devices, could become incompatible with American apps like YouTube or Microsoft Office, forcing you to choose between US or Chinese tech, much like the 5G divide with Huawei's networks in 60 countries. Your digital life, your devices, your apps, your costs hangs in the balance of this tech war, where a single chip could ignite a firestorm that changes everything. Huawei's KIRIN X90 is a high-stakes gamble in the US-China trade war, a battle that's already set global markets ablaze. It promises tech independence for China, potentially making your devices cheaper, faster, and more advanced, but but risks tipping the fragile truce into chaos, plunging the world into a deeper, more destructive conflict. With history warning of trade war fallout and the U.S. poised to strike back with sanctions or tariffs, this fault line could fracture the tech landscape, deciding whether your next laptop is a bargain or a battleground in a global showdown. The stakes are sky high, and the outcome will shape your digital future, from what you pay to what you can use online, in a war that's far from over. If this story lit a fire under you, hit that like button and subscribe to Tech Fault Line for the next blazing tech crisis. We'll be back tomorrow to keep you in the heat of the action.